Most people don't realize how much strength they lose just by talking. The moment you share a plan, your mind starts to feel like you've already done the work. In this video, we explore why silence protects your goals, sharpens your focus, and helps you grow without interference. This is the psychology of keeping your plans quiet, and why your life changes faster when you stop announcing your next move. There comes a moment in life when a person realizes that silence is not emptiness. Silence is a shape you can step into, a boundary you can build, a room inside yourself where your plans can grow without noise touching them. Many people spend their entire lives announcing where they're going, hoping the world will applaud before they even take a single step. But real growth, the kind that shifts your life from one chapter into another, rarely happens in the open. It happens when nobody is looking. It happens in the quiet. Humans have a strange reflex. The moment we feel inspired, we want to tell someone. The moment we have a new idea, we want to share it. The moment we decide to change our life, we want witnesses. It feels comforting to let someone else hold the weight of our intention. It makes us feel supported, validated, understood. Yet the very act of announcing a plan often steals the energy that was supposed to push you into action. This script explores that subtle psychology, the way silence protects your strength, the way intention decays under too much sunlight, and the way talking too much can make your goals feel complete before they've even begun. Imagine for a moment that you decide to transform your life. Maybe you want to start working on your discipline, or build a new habit, or create something meaningful. You feel the fire rising, the excitement building, and then you call someone, maybe a friend, maybe a family member, and you say everything out loud. What happens next is invisible but powerful. The brain mistakes the conversation for progress. Talking creates the same emotional reward as doing, but without the results. And just like that, the energy you needed to take the first step slips away. This is why silence matters. Silence keeps the pressure inside. It lets the desire mature. It transforms intention into fuel instead of decoration. The quieter your plans, the stronger your actions become. But silence has another psychological power. When you stop broadcasting your intentions, you begin to notice who around you is actually aligned with your growth and who only reacts to your announcements. Some people love hearing your ideas because it entertains them. Some love it because it gives them something to compare themselves to. And some quietly root for you but never help, never challenge you, never offer anything that actually strengthens your path. When you learn to stay silent, these dynamics become clear. Silence is not passive. It's strategic. The world is full of people who talk. Words are cheap, especially in a digital age where everyone can instantly post their dreams, goals, and deepest thoughts online. But the rare people, the ones who move differently, the ones who change their lives, the ones who build something meaningful, are those who let their results speak for them. They walk quietly while everyone else narrates their journey. They build without performing the act of building. They make progress in the shadow so that the light only hits the final form. Think of old philosophers who trained their minds in solitude. Think of spiritual traditions where silence is a form of discipline. Think of warriors who sharpen their craft quietly and reveal their skill only in the moment it's needed. Throughout history, silence has been a form of strength. And in a world overflowing with noise, silence makes you powerful. But there is another layer to this, one that modern psychology explains beautifully. People often seek approval before starting the work because they fear being alone with uncertainty. When you tell someone your plans, you transfer your doubt to them. You want them to soothe the risk, calm the anxiety, and tell you that you'll succeed. But this dependence weakens you. You train your mind to rely on external encouragement rather than internal resolve. You give away control by handing your emotional steering wheel to anyone who listens. When you learn to hold your intentions in silence, you build emotional independence. You learn to validate yourself. You stop needing applause to begin. This is the foundation of quiet self-confidence, the kind that doesn't need to announce anything yet moves with unmistakable certainty. People often talk about manifestation, motivation, or mindset tricks, but here is something far simpler and far more ancient: momentum grows best in silence. Pressure thrives in privacy. And creativity expands when no one is judging it prematurely. Consider the tiny seed planted in the soil. Nobody applauds when the seed breaks open. Nobody posts about the roots quietly expanding underground. The growth is invisible, and that is precisely why it is strong. If a young tree had to hear everyone's opinion before it grew, it might stay small forever. Humans are no different. Our dreams need darkness before they face the light. When you stop telling everyone your plans, something subtle begins to change in how you move through the world. You start acting instead of announcing. You start refining instead of bragging. You start caring more about doing than being seen doing. The shift is quiet, but powerful, like switching from talking about becoming a disciplined person to simply living like one. There's a particular freedom that comes with this. When you keep your goals private, you stop being trapped by people's expectations. You don't have to explain your progress. You don't have to justify changing direction. You don't have to answer when someone asks, "Aren't you supposed to be working on that thing?" Silence removes pressure. It frees you from the timeline others create for you. You regain the space to grow at your own pace. But maybe the most fascinating part is what silence does to your identity. People often talk about identity as if it's fixed, as if you're locked into the version of yourself others recognize. But when you stop discussing every thought and every goal, you gain something precious, the space to reinvent yourself without resistance. Nobody interrupts. Nobody doubts you. Nobody reminds you of your past failures. You become free to transform privately, without commentary. Reinvention thrives in quiet. Imagine someone who decides they want to become calm, disciplined, wise, a version of themselves that they've never been before. If they announce it, the people who know them might resist. They might tease, question, or remind them of how they used to be. This external feedback forces the person to fight both their old habits and other people's expectations. But if they choose silence, they get to evolve without interference. One day they simply show up different. Stronger. Steadier. Stoic. And the world sees the transformation only after it's already complete. The psychology of silence goes even deeper. When you talk too much about your life, you leak emotional energy. You spend time explaining yourself instead of understanding yourself. You share the raw shape of your thoughts before you've even had a chance to form them. You waste focus convincing people instead of convincing your own mind. Silence helps you take back that energy. It prevents you from scattering your mental power across conversations that don't serve your growth. There's also a strange tendency humans have: the more we talk about a goal, the more we feel like we've already done it. Talking becomes a substitute for effort. The brain releases a little reward whenever we describe the future version of ourselves. The imagination steps in, paints a picture, and gives us the illusion of progress. Silence stops this false reward system. It keeps you hungry. It keeps you uncomfortable. And discomfort is the birthplace of movement. But let's step into something deeper: the emotional security that silence provides. Many people overshare because they want reassurance. They want someone to tell them they're right, or capable, or justified. But this creates a dependency loop. You become someone who cannot act unless someone else approves your decision. Silence breaks this loop. When you hold your intentions privately, you teach yourself to trust your inner compass. You stop outsourcing your courage. You begin to build a relationship with your own intuition. Silence teaches self-trust. In a world obsessed with announcing every detail online, silence becomes rebellion. It's a rejection of the need to perform. It's a quiet declaration that your life is not entertainment. It's an act of reclaiming your identity from the algorithm, from society's expectations, from the pressure to constantly update others. Silence is strength because it is rooted in self-ownership. But you might wonder, if silence is so powerful, why isn't everyone using it? Because silence is uncomfortable. Speaking is easy. It gives instant relief. It gives attention. It gives connection. Silence requires patience. Silence requires inner conversation. Silence forces you to feel your doubt instead of escaping it by talking. And yet, those who master silence master themselves. There is a kind of calm confidence that comes from people who don't announce their intentions. You can feel it even before they speak, a grounded presence, a certain clarity in their eyes, a sense that they carry something important inside, even if they never say it. These are the people who move with purpose. Their silence isn't cold, it's composed. Their silence isn't avoidance, it's focus. Their silence isn't secretive, it's protective. But there's another psychological dimension worth exploring. Not everyone around you wants you to succeed. Some people are neutral. Some are supportive. But a small percentage feel threatened when you start improving your life. They might discourage you, distract you, or plant seeds of doubt. They might minimize your goals or remind you of your weaknesses. It's not always malicious, sometimes it's their own fear, insecurity, or limited worldview. But this is exactly why silence is so important. When you stop telling everyone your plans, you reduce the chances of letting someone else's limitations shape your future. Silence protects your dreams from the small minds of others. And silence protects others from your early, fragile ideas that need warmth and privacy before they are strong enough to face criticism. Think of how an artist draws their first sketches alone. Think of how inventors test their earliest prototypes privately. Think of how hermits and monks withdraw into solitude to build inner strength. When your ideas are still young, they need the same protection. But silence doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean shutting down every connection in your life. It simply means choosing when to speak and when to keep things sacred. There is a difference between secrecy and privacy. Privacy is healthy. Privacy is growth. Privacy is choosing to share only what is ready. When you stop oversharing, you learn to respect your own mind. You learn to treat your ideas like something valuable, something worth protecting. This is where the real transformation happens. As you speak less, you begin listening more, not to others, but to yourself. You hear your own thoughts more clearly. You understand your own fears more honestly. You detect your real desires without the noise of outside opinions. Silence creates space for self-awareness. And self-awareness is the foundation of a stronger, wiser version of you. But let's walk deeper into how this affects your daily life. Once you embrace silence, you start to feel less reactive. You stop explaining your every move. You stop defending yourself. You stop responding to assumptions. You begin to move more intentionally. And intention builds momentum. You discover that most situations don't need explanations, they need action. Most goals don't need validation, they need consistency. Most doubts don't need soothing, they need discipline. Silence turns your energy inward, where the real work happens. People around you may notice the shift. They may wonder why you're quieter, steadier, less eager to talk about your next step. But eventually, they will see the results. And those results will explain everything far better than words ever could. There's another layer worth acknowledging: silence creates mystery. Humans are naturally curious. When you stop talking about your plans, people become more attentive to your actions. They observe your growth instead of hearing about it. This quiet magnetism often creates respect, not forced, not demanded, but naturally felt. People sense discipline when it's authentic. They sense purpose when it's consistent. They sense inner strength when it doesn't need to announce itself. But the most powerful transformation happens inside you. Silence sharpens your intuition. You start noticing opportunities that you once overlooked. You start refining your decisions with more clarity. You stop making choices to impress anyone. You start moving based on your values, your logic, your vision. Silence reconnects you with your inner compass, the part of you that knows what you need long before you put it into words. And eventually, something remarkable happens. You realize you no longer feel the urge to overshare. You no longer crave applause. You no longer need someone to validate your path. You feel grounded in your own mind. You become someone who grows quietly, steadily, naturally. Now let's reach the heart of this lesson. Silence is not just about keeping your plans private. It's about strengthening the relationship you have with yourself. It's about protecting your mental energy. It's about giving your intention space to breathe. It's about becoming the kind of person who lets results speak louder than announcements. And when you move through life with this quiet strength, people begin to notice without you ever saying a word. Your silence becomes a language. Your silence becomes a boundary. Your silence becomes a source of power. In the end, the psychology of silence teaches something beautifully simple. You don't need to tell everyone where you're going. You just need to start walking. The people who matter will see your progress. The people who don't will fade naturally. And your life will begin to feel less like a performance and more like a personal journey. The world doesn't need another person announcing their next big plan. It needs more people who build quietly, grow patiently, and rise without noise. Let your silence work for you. Let it sharpen your focus, strengthen your discipline, and purify your intentions. And when the time comes, when your actions have carved a path, when your growth has taken root, when your transformation is undeniable, the world will see it. They will see the results, the changes, the evolution. Not because you told them, but because you lived it. Silence makes space for your becoming. And in that quiet space, your strongest self is waiting. Thank you for spending your time with this story. I hope it brought you a little peace, a little knowledge, or maybe a moment to breathe. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please remember to subscribe Literary Listening channel. It truly helps the channel grow and brings more stories to life. Your support means more than you know. Take care, stay curious.